My colleague here, the assistant professor and head of the electrical department at GC Valsad. He did his PhD from STNIT Surat, and his major, his research topic in PhD was on electric vehicles itself. So he will be giving today a session on uh, sizing and selection of solar PV panels for charging electric vehicles. Right? And he will be again covering up other things also. This session is not just a theory session, it will be a nice interactive session. Sir will be explaining you many design aspects as well as other things. So I welcome you, sir, Mukherjee, sir, and over to you now.
Thank you, dear sir. And before starting the session, I'd like to congratulate my two of the coordinators, my team, department team, for conducting this nice STP. My doctorate topic was feasibility and penetration of electrical vehicle on Indian power grid, analysis, challenges and solutions. That was actually in three parts. That how to enhance the for penetration of electrical vehicle on Indian power grid with some nice solutions. Then what will be the grid impact while vehicle is charging on the grid? In that we designed an hybrid control technique. Later on, we developed a fast charging station, and the tuning was done with a genetic algorithm. It was known as an online tuning. So what are the drawbacks of industrial PID controller? We try to overcome that. And in the last phase, I developed one battery charger using CC square CV method, and that is under now last stage of the patent. Actually, I have filed the patent for that. In 2014, I got the best pedagogical innovation award from my university for the nice work for Vishwakarma Yojana. In 2019, I got again the award by the state government for installing solar PV power plants at the. In 2020, I got the best academic best SSIP coordinator award for Gujarat, rank 2 in state. So these were some little achievements throughout my career with patents and with papers and all those things. Now, what are the outcomes of this session? From today, the participants will be benefited from an actual design that how to design a charging station or how to design a fast charging station based on solar PV. So you will have an actual design. So whether you want to put a residential load on your solar PV design, or you want to go for an design and implementation of selection and sizing of components for solar PV for EV charging, that will be definitely done. The second part, if somebody is willing to work on startup, say you are willing to do some best startup in this domain, in the renewable energy domain, then for those people also this will be a very useful session, because all the little detail I'll be covering for the session, that how to make it practically possible while the stage of implementation. Now I have gone through your few sessions of few days. So would like to ask some questions to you before directly starting the session. That you have many EV sessions. So can anybody tell me that what types of level of charging methods are there, and what exactly do you mean by the connector and the norms for charging?
There are three levels, two and level 3, that is DC charging, that is fast charging. 3 levels are there.
Great. So many people say that level 3 charging was restricted to say 500 volt. It was an old time. If you study the latest research paper, the journal papers, you will soon understand that the level 1, that is 120 volt AC up to 16 ampere 1.9 kilowatt, it is for a slow charging, say 12 to 20 hours. Obviously, you can pick up this time in level 1 also. Level AC single phase 240 volt 80 ampere. So it was 19.2 kilowatt onboard charging for 4 to 6 hours. And in level 3, 1000 volt C or in other words, you can say 450 volt AC for 400 or 200 ampere up to 400 kilowatt off-board charger. So now it is very categorized that in which domain we want to concentrate, whether it is an onboard charging or whether it is an off-board charging. So the charger which are placed inside a vehicle are called the onboard charger, and placed outside the vehicle are the off-board chargers. So the next domain comes that what India is following in this time. So we have a connector CHAdeMO, which is basically a Japanese standard. Japan, Europe and North America are using that, typically power rating of 50 kilowatt in the cars like Nissan, Mitsubishi. The CCS scheme, which is for Europe, a typical power rating 50 kilowatt, maximum power rating 150 kilowatt, cars like BMW, GM, and Volkswagen and other cars. GBT, which is Chinese based standard, it is typically power of 50 kilowatt, and proposed power by China, it is 900 kilowatt by 2020 going on, at present going on, the work is going on that. So what India is doing in India is following the standard which is known as the Bharat standard. So Bharat standard level 1 and level 2 both have a different applications. Level 1 DC charging 48 to 72 volt, 10 kilowatt, 15 kilowatt with maximum current up to 200. Cars like Mahindra E2O Plus, like they are dealing with this. In level 2, which is public charging stations up to 1000 volt with power rating up to 150 kilowatt. So what is new from a domestic solar PV application to a solar PV charging station or onboard charger or a level 1 charger or a level 2 charger or a charging station by solar PV? So we need to understand what type of connector applications are there, what type of communication applications we need to inbuild while designing a charger. Suppose say for CCS charging, they're using PLC communication system. Fine. But in the Chinese GBT standard, which now, as according to the Bharat standard, India is adopting, they use a CAN protocol, control area network. So these few things we have to incorporate in other design. And the main question comes that what is an exact difference between the typical
presentation is not.
Yes.
Sir, presentation is not visible. Have you put any presentation
slides? Yes. I'm just igniting the topic. I'll be just sharing my screen. Right. This was all the preface before my presentation. So this is my presentation for today. And one more question I want to ask, that if anybody is working in this solar PV domain, what do you understand by anybody? Say, I'll be coming back to this topic. I'm going through whole design of solar PV, domestic to vehicle charger, to norms, to standards, to connectors, to couplers, and to how to design the specification with different standards. That is the main motto of this topic. I hope so. Harshal sir, my screen is visible now. Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you can see this data are taken from the latest ministry website. It is load generation balance report from CEA and some other energy security report of the Government of India, Ministry of Power of India. Say what actually encourages you to work in this domain? What encourages to do some best startup work in this domain? Say if we compare 31/3/2020 on data, capacity is somewhere near 382 gigawatt. Now the dominance of the thermal power plant, coal, gas and diesel plus lignite, is somewhere near 61.42%. That is an issue regarding the greenhouse gas emissions, because obviously the energy sector, we are importing a coal from some other countries also as well as, and if we do not use the techniques which are known as CCC techniques, coal cum clean technique, then there is a big issue while we charge the vehicles from these typical conventional power plants. The hydro was somewhere near 12%. Renewable is 24.71%. Now, if I do the bifurcation of the renewable energy sources, we compare the big two sources. One is the wind power and second is the solar. So if you go back after 5 years back, the things were not such clear. that solar is now at 44%. But see the data of 16, we were somewhere near only 15.78%, 302 gigawatt, and the contribution of the renewable of 14.18%. At that time, the wind was somewhere, for total proposed it was somewhere near 62.7%. But slowly, you can see here the solar has now picked up. There are many reasons that why government has giving so many intensive for the solar energy. The sun has been playing existing not only supplying energy and light to Earth, but also used to understand how the other areas of universe. In fact, it was 6.3 into 10 raised to 11 watt per square meter of solar radiation produced constantly in the form of rays. As these rays spread from the sun's surface, their intensity reduced, and upon getting to planet Earth, the rays become parallel in nature. But still, there is an abundance of sun rays are there. Though most of the rays are being scattered, bifurcated and deflected upon the reaching Earth's surface, it is found that the total solar irradiation insolation absorbed by Earth is close to 3.8 million exajoules. So the solar energy doubles what is produced by all other non-renewable sources annually. That is a big reason why the government set the target that till 2021, the installation capacity of the solar power plants in India should cross 100 gigawatt. So this is one of the mission, the solar mission of Government of India. The second was the electrical mobility mission of Government of India. So this brings the abundance of solar irradiation reaching the Earth's surface for an hourly base unable to be harnessed by humans and other living organisms for a year. Photovoltaic being the interest of study, for some authors stress that the efficiently harness the solar intensity to provide the required solar energy to drive electric cars heavily relies on not only the weather condition, but the location and time of the day of angle, the solar irradiations, the material which is used, the design of PV panels, the protection aspect of the PV panels, and so many other aspects that will make this dream come true. Now, on this slide, I want to ask one question. That these are again the reports which are coming to us that compared to the imported coal, the cost of wind power is already competitive, thus requiring no additional support, and the cost of solar power will become competitive 2019. We find that wind power is already competitive, meaning the levelized cost of the electricity from the wind power is same of lower than from coal and would not require any government support. For solar power, the levelized cost of electricity was 11.79% higher than imported coal in 2015. Now, what the pinch point I am giving here for attracting to work in this domain, that you check some latest report. Now, how to decide that whether this statement is true for all the conditions or it is partially true for all the conditions. So if you check some reports of BMC or any other state at which you are residing, you have to compare the different types of tariff rate, whether it is a LT tariff rate and ST tariff rate, or whether it is a domestic tariff rate or a commercial tariff rate. Then you will come to know that partially in now the case, somewhere near in some states, the solar energy might be near 4.5 to 5 rupees as the domestic LT rate of 13 to 14 rupees. So these things are looking now very brilliant. Not only for using solar energy as for igniting your home, but also for using the solar energy for charging the vehicles. So India has declared the ambitious solar power capacity. The design steps are later on. I'm just putting the preface that why people should work in this domain. So India announced a target of adding 100 gigawatt of solar plants by year 2022. If successful, India would become one of the 3 largest solar power players globally, behind only China and Japan. So there are basically 2 types of system: on-grid and off-grid. On-grid means solar system is tied to local utility company system. On-grid systems are linked with power utilities which enable the home to use the power generated by the solar system as well as power for the local utilities. So you have some benefit about the grid tied up system when the net metering came into the picture. Say before, when the net metering was not there, the norms were not clear that what will happen if the bidirectional meter is used and the energy is thrown back into the grid. So the person, the DGVCL or the company, whether it is Torrent, whether it is any place, they will clearly say that once this law came into the existence, then and then the rebate is possible. Otherwise, the rebate was not possible. So then people go for the bidirectional meters and calibration of bidirectional meters and all those things. The benefit of the on-grid system that you do not have to invest for the expensive battery backup system. The off-grid system. Today we are in depth doing some design, including up to the cable and all the foundation design up to for the solar PV off-grid system for charging EV vehicle as well as for illumination at your home, and both the cases. And I'm very sure that after this session, everybody will do the design themselves for a given car parameter. If I pick up and give you one car parameter to practically design all those things, it will be possible. So for an off-grid solar system, we need 4 basic components: solar panel, charge controller, inverter, and battery. So obviously the battery backup is there. So if for the certain amount of time is the grid power is not available, your vital load is very safe. So this is basically a characteristic of a solar cell. The usable voltage from a solar cell depends on this whole beginning is just an introductory before I am actually penetrating the design. In silicon, it approximate to amount of 0.5 volt that everybody knows. 100 centimeter silicon coil, for example, reaches a maximum current intensity of approximately 2 ampere when radiated by 1000 watt per meter square. So the output of a solar cell is a temperature dependent. So why, when we do write some specification, they write a standard conditions at 1000 watt per meter square at a 25 degrees centigrade? Because if in the design, as we have covered in the later part, that if you do not take the correction factor, then there is a chance that your system might not work proper, because it will deviate from the standard parameters that we have derived. So higher cell temperature led to lower output and hence to lower efficiency. The level of efficiency indicates how much of radiated quantity of light is converted into the usable electric energy. So obviously with these 2 points, with the solar cell open circuited that is not connected to any load, the current will be 0 and voltage across the cell is at maximum, that is known as VOC. Another extreme condition, when the solar cell is short circuited, positive and negative leads connected together, the voltage across the cell is at minimum, but the current flowing out of the reach is maximum, known as solar short circuit current, ISC. So array and panel, number of cells will be converted to modules. Series and parallel connections of module will be result to array and then afterwards panel. So in the brief I have written for before starting the design that SPV module is the basic building block of the power supply, which consists of a number of solar cells connected in series and hermetically sealed with a toughened and highly transparent glass cover. These modules are connected in series and parallel to get the desired power and voltage. SPV panel modules, SPV modules of the same rating are connected in series to form a SPV panel to get the desired voltage, and obviously then after we get the number of panels which are connected in parallel to get the desired power, and we get the array. Now in this session you will come to know all this design. So here I have already told that your one basically solar cell ranging from 0.1 to 3 watts depending upon the cell area, it is not capable of producing the desired amount of power to meet the load demand, whether it is a domestic load or whether it is your EV charging load. So obviously you have to connect the cells in form of modules and array. So that is the design aspect of that. Now some people has a confusion that whether you want to go with a cell based analysis while designing a solar, or you want to go with a module based analysis for a designing system. So after this session, we will have some conclusion that you have to recheck and cross check the design with some parameters, that whether your EV charging station design will be okay or not for all conditions, for all weather conditions. So these are some manufacturers of solar, the type of module they produce. These are the list of solar cell manufacturers which is working, they are working on a cell-based system. Now, the main question comes that when you say that level 1 charging, level 2 charging, level 3 charging, DC charging, and obviously the residential load, then actually what type of panel to be preferred actually? So mono, poly, or thin film cells, and some other research is going on that I have mentioned in the subsequent slides. So if you want some, say somebody has some preferences of a color, say mono, the cells are basically with the single crystalline cells which are formed into bars, and they have a blackish type of appearance as compared to bluish appearance of this poly cells. So typical monocrystalline panel will tend to have a darker black color, with the typical polycrystalline panel will tend to have a blue color. Space constraint, you should have preferred higher efficiency solar panel. So mono is having a higher efficiency cells. If your PV system size is limited by the amount of space available on your roof, because of this paying the extra cost for the more efficient monocrystalline panels, that can help you maximize your electricity production while make more sense in these scenarios. So alternatively, we have a lot of roof space or an installing ground mounted solar, then lower efficiency polycrystalline can be more economic option. So when I did the e-tendering, when we installed some 18 1 kilowatt of grid panels at Surat region, in the southern Gujarat region, there I was given some cost criteria and I was given a space constraint at the roof. So that's why I didn't prefer at that time mono. I prefer at that time poly. Obviously, there were 3-4 major other reasons that why I preferred for a polycrystalline instead of monocrystal at that time. So solar financing, how you finance your system can also play a part in determining which type of panel you choose. For example, if you choose a power purchase agreement, you pay per kilowatt hour for the electricity produced by the system. This means that above any type of equipment you are being offered, your monthly payment will determine your savings. By contrast, if you are buying a system paying more high efficiency monocrystalline can result in high returns on your solar investment. So if you think for a 20-year span, a 25-year span, then calculate the return on investment, calculate the payback period, calculate your targeted attempt, that what you are gaining after the certain amount of time, not for that spot of time, then you will get your answer that what you are going with. So mono means a single, as the name indicates. Monocrystalline solar panel cells are made of single pure silicon crystal. It is also called single crystal silicon because one single crystal used to make the array which provides solar panel purity and uniform appearance across the PV module. Monocrystalline solar panels are in the rounded shape and the silicon crystal bars looks like cylindrical in the PV module. So some people prefers look. I prefer something else. So here it is claimed that some of the solar panels achieve the efficiency at 25%. Say just like
Sir, your mic is off. Kashyap, sir, your mic is off.
it is done. So I hope so. Now it is okay. Fine. Now we were here actually.
Yes, sir, we are hearing, but your presentation is not visible.
My presentation is visible now.
Yeah. Now, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. So what is the disadvantage? While you make a monocrystalline cell to make silicon wafers and arrays in large cylindrical shape, there is a considerable amount of wastage of silicon cells. Then second point, as it is made of a single silicon crystal, hence the partially covered area of solar panel which snow, dirt or shade may break into the entire circuit of PV. It tends to be more efficient when temperature goes up, works better in warm weather and full sunshine, but is not considerable for most homeowners. So what exactly the condition is at Tamil Nadu, at my place at Valsad, at your place, at other place? According to that, I can go with a decision, including the cost of economy that I would take into the picture. So the multicrystalline, the polycrystalline, as the name tells the story, it made of number of different pure silicon crystals combined together to make a PV cell. The efficiency is less compared to the monocrystalline cell. But if you take the other advantage of the working at a lower temperature or the space constraint of the monocrystalline silicon, then we can go for a polycrystalline cell that I have mentioned here. So this is just I'm igniting before my design. I'm going in the selection and sizing of the panels before actually going to the design part of the domestic load and design part of the EV charging station, both at a time. So while polycrystalline panel, we know that if the efficiency is claimed at 17%, so out of that is technically means that if 100 watt of solar potential energy strikes the solar panel, you will get 17 watt out of that. The already advantage and disadvantage I have mentioned. Then comes the string reverse solar cells. So process in which the crystalline silicon strips and foils are manufactured for PV technology. In this process, high temperature resistance wires are pulled through the molten silicon to form the multicrystalline thin ribbon of silicon crystals. These very thin ribbons then cut into different lengths to form a PV and solar cells. So solar panels made with string ribbon technology looks the same to traditional PV panels. So this process was first developed in 1970 by Mobiteco Solar Energy Corporation. Note that the string ribbon PV panels are also made of the polycrystalline silicon. Advantages: lower cost production. String ribbon solar panel efficiency is about 13 to 14%. The laboratory efficiency achieved by some researchers may be 18 to 19%. More expensive. Manufacturing is more energy extensive. Lowest space efficiency. So where space constraint is there, we should not go for there. Now here comes a big solution if you want to go for a bulk power production. Basically, just like an application of not having a charging station of level 1 and level 2, but we want to install a charging station of say level 3 of a big capacity. Then your thin film solar cell based stations can fit the role there. So the thin film solar cells are also known as the thin film photovoltaic cell or amorphous or PV modules. Integrating one or more thin layers of PV materials or thin film on a substrate, metal, glass, polyester, it is the basic process to make thin film solar panels, and it is a second generation solar cell. The thickness of film varies from a new nanometers to 10 to micrometers, while much thinner to the film. And these are some examples of the thin film solar panels. So following are the subcategories: amorphous silicon, copper, indium, gallium selenide, cadmium telluride. Now, these are some research going on the thin film technology itself, which is the material consists of an organic photovoltaic cell, dye-sensitized polymer solar cells, quantum dot, copper zinc tin sulfide, nanocrystal. So some researchers tend to work on the material physics, that they how it is built, how it is converted into cell-based technology, cell-based to module-based technology. And obviously, module-based technology is tested in the standard test and condition with the norms. That norms we are discussing later on. That what are those norms actually to be verified and to be cross-checked actually, and then it can be claimed that the efficiency or whatever the points they are claiming. So advantage: large-scale production of thin film solar panels are less complicated than crystallized-based PV cells. They are cheap as compared to the other monocrystalline PV solar panels. The uniform appearance of thin film solar panels are more attractive and can be used in the process. It has a high temperature tolerance, and shedding will have less impact on the thin film solar. There is a major advantage for large production of power. The shedding has a less impact. Disadvantage: it requires a lot of space. Typically, they are not useful for residential and homeowners. So obviously, residential and homeowners who prefer the level 1 or level 2 commercial charging, they go for mono or poly as per their geographical location, as per their cost of economy, and as per the other parameters which I have explained. If I have a land with a reasonable rate and I want to go for a large scale production for EV charging station, then obviously I have to go for a thin film based technology. The life expectancy is of this thin solar panel is lower than that of a poly and monocrystalline panels. So here is a typical PV system arrangement. In this topic, we are also discussing the power electronics part of the research also. We know that there is a panel which is either mono, poly or thin film cells, grid tied inverter is there. Then we have grid transformer, and then the arrangement of like this. If we talk about only the battery operated system, then also we will think this is basically a standalone PV system that I would discuss actually. Okay, how to design this standalone system. Now, please look at this point. Say the conventional this design will change when you have some electrical vehicle charging station incorporated there, whether it is level 1, level 2. So what is the change that we are discussing later on once this design is completed? So design steps: a planning of a standalone PV system, consideration for standalone PV system, calculation of an energy demand, inverter and converter ratings, converter and charge controller sizing, inverter sizing, daily energy supply to the inverter, how to decide I want to go for a system voltage of 12 volt, 24 volt, 36 volt or 48 volt, how to decide which type of battery I have to use, what sizing will be there, exactly what ampere hour battery I required, how to decide that how number of PV arrays and modules I need, how to decide that whether my cell based calculation for the EV charging station is exactly matching with the modular based design or not. So some examples are there, some design calculations are there, because this session is based on the theory cum lab session like that. So I'll be working on that also. And find the rating and sizing of the inverter, number of batteries, charge controller design, and the cable design and norms. and this the structure design. So the standard operating condition, the PV module parameters are mentioned by the manufacturers under the standard test condition, that temperature of 25 degrees centigrade and radiation of 1000 watt per meter square. In most of the time and location, the condition specified under STC does not occur. This happens because the solar radiation is always less than 1000 watt per meter square and the cell operating temperature is higher than 25 degrees centigrade. This uncertainty results in reduced output power of the PV module. So before going to the site assessment, I want to ask one generalized question to candidate, that what is basically at what location I have to place my solar panel, whether it is an EV charging station, whether it is a domestic lighting concept, and how to set the direction. Can anybody tell me the answer? Three questions I would like to ask you. Then again I'll be coming back to the answer. The first question, that how to select the location, that at this particular location I want to do. Now you want that your solar panel has directly a perpendicular interface with the sun at every time. Fine. Then how to calculate the tilted angle mathematically and how to calculate the tilted angle practically? That is my second question. And whether at every place at the globe, the direction of the solar panel will be uniform? Any candidates?
Sir, depending upon where the location where we get the maximum panel generation factor.
What do you mean by panel generation factor? Is it reliable? Or we should make it reliable? Anybody will tell what is the panel generation factor of India? A nearer figure? We are just going into the design aspect. I will tell you that at what exactly place you are located. According to that, you have to decide that your panel should be at a south facing or north facing. Why in India it is a south facing, that will be just seeing in a while. Now basically the panel generation factor, that is known as a PGF. It is average solar irradiation of location multiplied by sunshine hour and divided by the standard test condition irradiation that I have mentioned. Fine. One of the participant mentioned the PGF. So basically in that PGF, the research is whatever the nominal PGF, approximate PGF you are getting on, that you can obviously modify even if it for an Indian condition. Obviously there are some softwares also. The software application, just like PVC or other application, in where the theoretical design or examinations can be again redesigned, and you can cross check it that whether both the designs are same or not. What is what I'm trying to convey? Is it? So let's go to the actual design conditions. Yes. So we were here. So you want to place a panel at a place where you are just evaluating that selected site either at a rooftop or a ground should not have shades or should not have any structure that intercepts the solar radiation falling. The surface area of the site at which the PV installation is intended should be known to have estimation of the size and number of panels required to generate the required power output. This is covered in the design steps. Rooftop, in the case of rooftop installation, the type of roof and its structure must be known. In the case of tilt roof, the angle of the tilt must be known. And possible routes of cable should be known, that at which capacity cable you are selecting at different times and how it will be passing. To estimate the output power, the solar energy assessment of the selected site is of foremost significance. Insolation is defined as the measure of sun's energy received in a specified area over a period of time. You can find this data using a pyranometer. However, it is not necessary, as you can find the insolation data at your nearest meteorological station also. So there are two concepts. Kilowatt hour per square meter, it is a quantity of energy measured in kilowatt hours falling on a square meter per day, and daily peak sunshine hours. number of hours in a day during which irradiation averages to 1000 watt per meter square. So basically, peak sun hours are most commonly used as simplified, as they simplify the calculation. So now, what peak term came actually? It arrived from all these things. So to get the most from solar panels, we need to point them in the direction that captures the maximum sunlight. Example, south, if you are in the northern hemisphere, please remember that. If you are place it as a northern hemisphere, it will be at the south facing. If it is placed at the southern hemisphere, it will be at the north facing. Now, there are two concepts for this tilting also, to just have a maximum irradiation at solar panels. There is a simple rule of thumb for calculating the best tilt angle for fixed mount solar panel. Subtract 15 degrees from the latitude at your location during summer. Suppose say 34 degrees is your latitude at the place. So subtract 15 degree from it and add 15 degree to the latitude during the winter. But this is an approximation for designing the solar PV, whether it is for domestic load or whether it is for charging station. The another way is to optimum tilt angle for solar panel during winter is calculated by multiplying the latitude by 0.9 and adding 29 degree. So suppose my latitude at the place is 34 degree. So 34 into 0.9 plus 29, it gives me 59.6. So this angle is 10 degrees steeper than in the general method, but very effective at tapping the midway sun, which is the hottest in the short winter days. For summer, the tilt angle is calculated by multiplying the latitude by 0.9 and subtracting 23.5 degree. So it comes somewhere near 7.1 degree. For optimum tilt angle during spring and fall, 2.5 degrees subtracted from the latitude. So whatever your latitude data, the formula remains same, and you have to calculate, you have to subtract 2.5 and again repeat the formula. In PVSys or any other system data, you can just cross check that what the design you are doing for the placement of the system is going right or not. So we'll get the answer. So calculate the calculation of energy demand considering standalone PV system. So total energy demand, whatever is equal to summation of power rating in watt into duration of operation in hours. A system should be designed for the worst case scenario. Example, for the day when the energy demand is highest, a system designed for the highest demand will ensure that the system is reliable. If the system meets the peak load demand, it will meet the lowest demand. So, but designing the system for the highest demand will increase the overall cost of the system. So you have to choose in between where you go for the energy demand assumption. Now, inverter and converter charge controller ratings. For choosing the proper inverter, both the input and output voltage and current rating should be specified. The inverter output voltage is specified by the system load. So let's consider your 2.5 kVA inverter with power handling capacity. You have to add 20 to 30% higher than the power running. The load should be chosen. In case the suppose your machine load is there, then you have to consider 3 to 5 times higher than the power demand. In case your EV charging load is there, you have to consider the initial charging current and the nominal charging current both. In case of EV charging station, you are designing for the inverter capacity. For charge controller sizing, I am taking one example, both for EV and both for domestic load. The charge controller rating should be 125% greater of the photovoltaic panel short circuit current. In other words, it should be 25% greater than the short circuit current of solar panel. In the subsequent slide, I have shown that where to get the ISC data. So I have shown here one case of inverter sizing that I have already discussed, that 25% margin you have to cap for losses. So for suppose a 2400 watt system, if you take 25% margin, then it should be somewhere near 3000 watt side. So you need a 3 kilowatt of inverter in case of 2400 watt load. Now, daily energy supply to the inverter. Let us consider the daily consumption of the load is somewhere near 2700 watt hour. Assuming 90% efficiency will give suppose 3000 watt hours per day. The system voltage. 12 volt, 24 volt, 36 volt or 48 volt. That is considered up to the distance between your system and the battery, the voltage drop in the system, and according to that the selection of the voltage will be defined. Not every case you have to take 48 volt. In some case of taking 24 volt nominal size also will be enough for designing the system. But that we have to go reverse while we go for a solar PV charging system design. Sizing of batteries. Whatever the theoretical concept I am showing one practical explanation below. So for sizing of the battery, how to decide that at which capacity or ampere hour battery I should go? So depth of discharge of the battery, voltage and ampere rating of the battery. So if my system, suppose a solar panel is of 24 volt, obviously I will be selecting 24 volt battery. But the thing is that at which capacity, at which ampere hour? So suppose consider a 12 volt of 100 ampere battery with depth of discharge. It is reverse of SOC, state of charge, that you have learned in the previous session. So thus the usable capacity of the 100 ampere battery will be 70 ampere while considering DOD. How this equation is derived, I am just getting for that. So the required charge capacity is equal to energy supplied by the battery to the inverter system voltage. So it means that for 3000 watt hour that we have just deduced, for 3000 watt hour load, summation of all the wattage of the watt capacity of your domestic equipment into the hours of operating, or in case of charging station, the watt hour of your EV load divided by the required charge capacity, you will get the ampere hour. So number of battery required is equal to required charge capacity divided by 100 into DOD. So it comes at 125 ampere hour by 100 into 0.7. So 1.78. So by rounding, you get 2 batteries. So thus 2 batteries of 12 volt 100 ampere are required, but due to round off, you have to go with some higher factor. Suppose you should not go with a 140 ampere hour, sorry, 125 ampere hour. You should go one step higher. We can go for 140 ampere hour instead of this. Now, all these things I have formulated in terms of equation. So that's why it will be very easy to understand that how it can be done. So I have shown one case here before going to the practical design. Therefore, say 2 volt 100 ampere hour batteries in parallel to meet the above charge capacity. You can go like this. So 24 volt 2 batteries are in series, and for adding the current capacity, both are connected into the parallel. So this way, the desired capacity of your battery can be dealt for a solar PV charging station, whether it is a domestic load or whether it is you go for a level 1, level 2 or the next charging design. So this equation is formed as per the previous slide. Say step by step what we did actually. We have given the DOD, we have given the voltage rating of the panel rating, and from that we divided the required charge capacity by nominal voltage by the DOD. So this is the equation, that if you want to decide the battery capacity for solar PV application, first go to the total watt hour of appliance. Suppose you have some certain fans operating at certain hours, certain LED at operating hours, or you have an electrical vehicle watt hour rating here, into multiplied by days of autonomy divided by battery losses into depth of discharge into rated battery voltage. Now, can anybody explain me what is a day of autonomy?
Power generation.
So, without any power generation, without getting a grid support, how your battery will supply to the load, that is basically day of autonomy. Now, here there is a tricky, it is very tricky. If you select a day of autonomy as 5 days, then obviously the sizing of the battery will get increased and the costing of the battery, your system will get increased. If you have a day of autonomy of nominal of 2 or 3, then you have a limited backup for a limited time. So obviously that is also designed for a particular system, that what you want to do and what actually budget is there with you and what typical backup you want to provide. Not every backup will be there with this kind of upgrade system. For vehicle charging system alone, it is very clear that I want to charge a vehicle without a grid for how much time of period. I want to charge for a 1 day or a 2 day, and then I have to bear a cost for that. So what is a PV array? So different size of PV module available in the market. Total size of PV array is equal to energy demand per load in watt hour divided by TPH. So where TPH is the lowest daily average peak sun hours of the month per year, and 1.25 is the scaling factor. With this number of PV modules and modules required can be determined as modules required is equal to total size of PV array divided by rating of selected panels in watt peak. So dear friends, please understand that when you deal with a solar system, you have 2 ratings here, watt and watt peak. So what they are doing actually, they are calculating the total load of the system and in watt hour, and that watt hour is divided by the rating of the selected panels in watt peak. Now, from how to get the watt hour to watt peak? So when your watt hour is divided by the panel generation factor, which is approximately 4 to 5 in Indian context. So whatever the watt hour load, if you divided it by your panel generation factor of the site, you will get the watt peak. And whatever the watt peak you get, and the watt peak module available in the market, you divided, you will get the total modules, N modules for that your system, whether it is an electrical vehicle charging or whether it is, if it is a domestic load pickup. So this I was telling that there is a debate on a PGF and how do you improve it. Say your total watt peak of PV panel capacity 3,000. So I hope so we understand that from how this watt peak came. Summation of your all load. If you want a charging station that is capable of supplying the domestic load as well as EV load, then this factor will be summation of all these factors that you want to utilize. But obviously when you are dealing with EV charging, you have to follow the norms, whether it is a GBT standard, whether it is a CHAdeMO, whether it is a CCS, you have to connect the connector wherever it is necessary as per norm. Suppose say for level 1 and level 2 EBS, you have to use J1772 connector in between there when you are giving a supply. So that the difference we have to create in the mind with the domestic load and with the EV charging load. So the panels required are 931 divided by 160 watt peak. It is available in the market. So you get 5.8 or 6 panels. So US might be 3.22, Thailand is 3.43, India is there. But I give you the equation, that the equation for the PGF is average solar radiance of location into sunshine hour divided by the standard test condition irradiance. Now, if your place is as such a place that the additional losses should be considered to find the exact PGF. Which are the losses? Sunlight not striking the solar panel straight, consider it at 5% or whatever the variable parameter is that. Not receiving energy at maximum power point, fine, it will be excluded in case of MPPT charge controller. This will come when PWM control is there. Dirt on the solar panel 5%, PV panel aging and below specification 10%, and temperature about 25%. So this equation in research is bound to be varying. That I want to say that it will be very case to case when you consider the PGF from the standard net data or PGF varied from the location data, and that obviously you can cross check with PVSys or some other software also that we are using for sizing. The sizing of the cable depends on many factors such as maximum current carrying capacity. It should have a voltage minimum drop and have minimum resistive loss. The cable must have a minimum voltage drop. We know that at the area of cable can be defined as rho into IM, that is the maximum current carried by the cable, into length of the cable divided by the maximum permissible voltage drop into 2. So I have some ready to use cable standards and norms that at which current capacity I want to use which cable. So from that I will come to know where to use a 4 square mm cable, where to go for a 6 square mm cable, where to use some other cable for my interconnections between the different modules of the system. So I have covered this for a solar PV plant, and later on I have just given for EV charging, that how EV charging will be done. Suppose we have the following electrical load in watt of 12 volt 120 watt solar panels, an LED for some certain hours, a refrigerator for certain hours, and DC fan for certain hours. So obviously the things are there. Multiply your watt hour, get the watt hour per day, multiplied by the energy waste in the system. Say 30% I have taken losses, I will get 1924 watt per day. Find the size and number of solar panels. So I will divide this watt hour by the panel generation factor, and I will get the watt peak. And from that watt peak, I have my available panel is 120 watt peak. I have already mentioned that I have a 120 watt peak panel. Actually, this is watt peak. So out of 601.25, I divided by 120 watt peak. So I will get 5 solar panel modules. So this way, 5 solar panels, each of 120 watt peak will be capable to power up the load. So step number 1, decide the watt hour for charging station or watt hour for domestic load, or the summation of both the load if both are operating on the same station. Take the energy loss 30% in the system. So आपका जितना watt hour है उसमें 30% आप add कीजिए. That will be that watt hour per day. That watt hour per day divided by the panel generation factor of that day. While panel generation factor, according to your location, you have to calculate so many other parameters. You have to consider so many other parameters, because your panel generation factor, if it is accurate, you will get some accuracy at the designing stage, and then you get how many solar panel modules will be there, and you will be able to calculate the modules will be there. For sizing of the inverter, it is very straight. Whatever the load capacity in wattage is there, you have to go 25% greater than that for considering losses in the inverter, and for 180 watt, you have a 225 watt inverter. Now the battery sizing, and how the series parallel combination of battery we can get, that we'll see. So according to our load requirement, 40 watt for 12 hours, 80 for 80 hours, and 80 watt for 8 hours, and 60 watt for 6 hours. Nominal voltage deep cycle battery is 12 volt. Why I got for 12 volt? Because while designing a system for 12, 24, 36, or 48, I decided that what specifically voltage rating I have to go. That will be remain same for your panel module or the same for the battery module also. So required days of autonomy, suppose I have selecting 2 days. So total watt hour of the appliance is divided by the battery efficiency you are considering, so 0.85 divided by, multiplied by the DOD 60% and multiplied by the system voltage. So efficiency, depth of discharge, system voltage, and the whatever rating will give you the ampere hour capacity for a 12 volt battery. Now, if this is 483.6 ampere, but is not available in the market, so I want to prefer a higher rating than this which is available in the market. So I will get 12 volt 500 ampere battery capacity, but when I visited a site, I didn't get a 500 ampere battery. So while adding that current capacity and reaching up to 500 ampere, what we did actually 125 ampere battery 4 connected in parallel we got for. If the available battery capacity is 175 ampere hour and 12 volt, and we have reduced to this rating, then obviously instead of 5 we can get 3 numbers of battery there for the same rating. Required numbers of battery is equal to required capacity of battery in ampere hour divided by available battery rating. Now you have this type of panel specification, module specification is there with you. So when I designed these things for places at Surat, I was also given a specification of VOC, then peak power, nominal voltage, peak voltage, sorry, and ISC that we have already defined. What is ISC? So required solar charge controller is, I have total 5 modules or 5 panels into the ISC, that is 8.8 ampere into 1.25. Now this 1.25, how it comes, it is also a debate that you can also correct it. So it means that the charge controller sizing, I need at least a capacity of 44 ampere here. So this I have already gone nominal voltage sizing. So here I am just clarifying it. If you have 2 options, that whether you want to go for a standard 1.25 ampere specification, want to go for an NEC specification, that what NEC says, to select a proper charge controller, you have to know the maximum output current that we can get from the data sheet that I have shown you. ISC, once you get, you have to get a safety factor of 1.25 into 1.25. Now, what was that 1.25? So what I'm telling you, that you will get some literature here that you go for a multiplication of 1.25, but I suggest you to not to go for 1.25 but go for 1.56. The reason is that we use a standard factor to account for all solar panel output boosting circumstances, like a sunny day where clear snowpack, that factor is 125%. If it is there, it will be here. Why I write it 125? Because in my case, suppose this was absent, this 1.25 was clearly absent, and a second derating factor may be required for system in continuous operation. That is everywhere as according to the NEC. So in some case, I will multiply it by 1.25. In some precise case where this snowpack and all these conditions is applicable at that place according to their geographical location and the condition at the site, then I have to multiply it by 1.56. So here I have shown the one of the 100 watt polycrystalline photovoltaic solar panel where ISC is 6.32, and we are getting the data from that. So 6.32 into 1.56, that nominal ratings we should have. So that I have written here, that your charge controller rating will be 6.32. That is your ISC basically. That is written on your panel, or which is available with the data sheet with dimensions. And if I multiply it by 1.56, I will get the current of say 9.85 ampere. So in this case, 9.85 ampere or higher rated charge controller would be recommended. So solar charge controller rating is selected as 10 amps for 12 volt. So this is part 1 section I'm ending here, because next section is solar PV charging based on this design of the electrical vehicle charging station design. So standalone PV system is an excellent way to utilize the readily available eco-friendly energy of the sun. Its design and installation are convenient and reliable for small, medium and large scale energy requirements. Such a system makes the availability of electricity almost anywhere in the world, especially in remote areas. It makes the energy consumer independent of the utility and other sources of energy such as coal, natural gas, etc. Such a system can have no negative impact on our environment and can provide energy for long periods after its installation. The above systematic design and installation provide useful guidelines for our need for clean and sustainable energy in the modern world. Now, the next part is how to compare the module-based technology with the cell-based technology and how to apply the fundamentals with the EV charging station. Before that, I would like to ask that if anyone has doubt until this point, because now we are going into that EV charging station design. Any doubts till now, friends? Otherwise, I'll be moving ahead. So, when you go for a practical implementation and you want to actually place a solar PV panels with modules, with array, with foundation, with cable size, with EV charging station precautions, with safety norms, with safety standards, then in that case, there are so many parameters that we have to consider that now we are looking in part 2, the second session that just will be beginning. So there was some ambiguity in defining the panel generation factor, how to consider the panel generation factor, how to modify the panel generation factor. Obviously, the location through south facing was already decided. How to decide the tilt angle, how to modify the tilt angle, how to compare your theoretical data with PVSys or any other software which is used for solar PV sizing, and how to increase your design in second and third step. That while actual implementation with cost benefit analysis, you will get the exact design which was an intended aim for designing your solar PV charging stations for EV stations. I'll be just keeping a 1 minute hold. If any questions, then I'll be moving ahead. No questions, friends? So we'll be again carrying from, because now we are going with a cell-based design, comparing it with a module, because say number of people ask the question, so whether we go for a cell-based design, whether we go for a module-based design, whether which norms to follow, which standards to follow, how to decide the battery capacity, how to decide the panel capacity, whether by panel capacity with mid level 1, level 2 charging or not. So many questions will come in the mind when we go for an actual implementation. So now determine the number of cells in a module. How I can predict that this much cells I require, whether it is a domestic charging or whether it is an EV charging. So one of the basic requirement of the PV module is to provide sufficient voltage to charge the batteries of the different voltage level under daily solar radiation. This implies that the module voltage should be higher to charge the battery. Suppose your module voltage is 12 volt. Now already we have discussed where to go for a 12 volt. 24 volt. Once again, I am sharing. Just a minute. I'll be just opening and again I'll be sharing. Now it is visible?
No, sir.
No?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
So in the later half, I will also show that how I picked up the foundation design and cable design also. That how I supplied that 18 numbers of panels for the place for this application. So that will be just coming after the first step. We were here actually. I think so participants will mute themselves so that the disturbance will not be there. Say now I'm taking the design examples in between there. So PV modules are designed to provide the voltage in the multiple of 12 volt battery. To charge a 12 volt battery through a PV module, obviously we need a module having a 15 volt, and for 24 volt battery we need a VM of 30 volt. One step ahead. Other devices used in PV system are made compatible to be work with a battery voltage level. To provide the required voltage level, we need to connect cells in series depending on the different technology used in the PV cell. The number of cells required to be connected in series will differ. The number of cells to be connected in series depends on the voltage at maximum power point VM of the individual cell and the voltage drop that occurs due to increase in the temperature of the cell above STC. Now what happens when people design all the things with nominal condition, and what will happen? They will come back actually that, oh, we have not taken the variation of the temperature, we have not taken the effect of snow, we have not taken the X effect, and at that end they will find themselves at a place that our theoretical design is somewhat deviating from the practical design. So that's why I'm taking that part, and I'm giving 3 cross check that whether your design is okay or not, that how to cross check it. So the case where the deviation is occur, I hope so my screen is visible. Friends, is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let us understand with an example. A PV module is to be designed with solar cells to charge a battery of 12 volt. The open circuit voltage of the cell is 0.89 volt, and the voltage at the maximum power point VM is 0.79 volt. The cell operating temperature is 60 degrees centigrade, and there is a decrease in voltage by 2 millivolt for per degree centigrade rise in temperature. So how many cells are required to connected in series to charge the battery? This is the question. Now, initially when we see the design steps, that was of a standard operating condition at STC, 1000 watt per meter square, 25 degrees centigrade. But once this deviation is given, then how to approach for that deviation? So step number 1, find the voltage at maximum power point. It is 0.79 volt. If VM is not specified in your case while designing for this SPB plant, then take VM as 80 to 85% of the VOC. Step number 2, find the loss of voltage under operating temperature at 60 degrees centigrade. So rise in temperature above STC is equal to the deviation or difference between operating temperature minus temperature at STC. So rise in temperature above your standard condition, which is given for your PV cell, which when you buy it, it was for 25 degrees centigrade. Now you are saying that you will be using it at 60 degrees centigrade. So it will be 60 degrees centigrade minus 25 degrees centigrade, that is 35 degrees centigrade. Therefore, loss of voltage due to the rise in temperature above STC, it will be 35 degrees centigrade into 0.002 volt. So it is somewhere near 0.07 volt. Now what happens? Determine the voltage at the operating conditions. The voltage at the operating condition is equal to the voltage at STC VM minus voltage loss due to the rise in temperature above STC. So when we design the concept, we never take consideration of this part that we have to take actually in the part for actual design. So therefore, voltage at the operating point, it is equal to 0.79 volt. That was a given data minus this 0.07 volt, and it comes say 0.72 volt for the voltage of the operating condition. Now step number 4. Determine the required PV module voltage to charge the battery. To charge a battery of 12 volt, we need a module voltage to be around 15 volt. So determine the number of cells to be connected in series. So number of series connected cells is equal to PV module voltage divided by voltage at the operating condition. Obviously, in the previous slide, we have shown that the voltage at the operating condition was deduced as 0.72 volt. So in this case, 15 divided by 0.72 volt, it will come near 20.83 or about 21 cells. Thus, we need 21 series connected cells to charge a 12 volt battery. It is important to note that for a different solar cell technologies, we will need a different number of cells in series for the same output voltage. So when you are considering a voltage level, then go for a series. When you are considering an ampere hour capacity or a current capacity, then go in then you have to go for in parallel. This I have explained in one of the slides that how the 24 volt two batteries were connected in a combination of a series parallel to meet the desired capacity of a charging station. So while this type of application is there, we know that my charge controller is there, my panels are there. This might be any load, a combination of an EV charging station or combination of a load and a domestic load or only EV charging station load. That depends upon what application or what design it is based on your hands at present. So this is one more design for 24 volt system that you can just go for the system. Now, this is one more example of the deviation condition with respect to the current density of the cell. So one of the most common cells available in the markets is crystalline cell, and that these cells are available in the area of say 12.5 into 12.5 centimeter square and 15 into 15 centimeter square. So it is difficult to find the cell beyond this area in the market. Most of the larger solar plants use modules with these cell areas. But how much higher voltage does this module can provide, and how can obtain higher power per module? So typically designed PV module has a VM of 15 volt that we have decided to charge a 12 volt battery. To obtain this voltage, we have already calculated this much number of cells are connected in series depending upon their operating temperature and peak voltage VM of the individual cell. So the current produced by cells depend on the area, amount of light falling on it, angle of the light falling on it, and current density. The crystalline cell has a current density of the range of 30 milliampere per centimeter square to 35 milliampere per centimeter square. So let us take a current density of 30 milliampere per centimeter square. Then current density is equal to current by area. So your current is equal to density into area. So for it is equal to 30 milliampere per centimeter square into 12.5 into 12.5 centimeter square. So area will get cancelled and I will get the ISC for this. So ISC for this case it is 4.68 ampere. So now I am telling something else, that once ISC was a case where you deduce from the panel data itself, now you are typically finding your way inside for a design of considering all the typical deviations which is at that time of a design point that we have considered. So for most manufacturers, the IM is about 90 to 95% of ISC. For our example, let us say IM is 95% of ISC. So IM is 0.95 into ISC. So then IM for an area of 12.5 centimeters is again, it is equal to the same equation, 0.95 into 4.68. So it will be 4.446 ampere. So similarly for 15 into 15 centimeters square, I get my value of IM. That is 0.95 into 6.70 current density into the area. So I will get 6.412 ampere. So now we can determine the maximum peak power for these two cells. So now I am getting my PM here with this condition of the density and all the variable conditions. So PM is equal to 15 into 4.446 for the first case. So 66.69 watt for an area of this. And PM is equal to 15 into 6.412, that is 96.18 for an area of 15 into 15 centimeter square. So by utilizing the best available cell technology, having an area of 12.5 into 12.5 and 15 into 15 centimeter square, we can get a power output of 66.69 watt and 96.18 watt respectively, considering IM to be 95% of ISC and current density of 30 ampere per centimeter square. To increase the voltage and current of the module, the more number of cells must be connected in series and parallel, that we obviously know and we have discussed previously. Now the second consideration. Now for better understanding of the design parameters, suppose voltage at maximum power point VM of 45 volt under STC at 33.5 volt under 60 degree operating temperature. We'll use the cells having an open circuit voltage of 0.64 volt, having a 0.004 volt decrease in VM per degree centigrade in temperature. Fine. So what to do in this case where these deviation parameters are given? So find the voltage at maximum power point. It is not given as stated earlier. It is 80 to 85% of VOC. So my Vmax is 0.85 because my VOC is already given or it is stated in the example of 0.64. So 0.64 volt is my VOC, 85% of that, and I will get my VM of 0.544 volt. Step number 2, find the loss of voltage under operating temperature at 60 degrees centigrade. So rise in temperature about STC is equal to operating temperature into minus temperature at STC that we have seen previously. So STC rise in temperature is 60 degrees centigrade minus 25 degree because it was a rise from the nominal temperature of 25 degree to 60 degree. So that will come somewhere near 35 degrees centigrade. Therefore, the loss of voltage due to rise in temperature about STC is already, we have given here that 0.004 volt into 35 degrees centigrade. So it is 0.14 volt deviation is there. So determining the voltage at the operating condition, the voltage at the operating condition is voltage at STC minus loss of voltage due to a rise in temperature STC. So 0.544 volt that was achieved in step number 1 minus this 0.14 volt that was in step number 2 and voltage at operating condition we get here that for this condition, for your panel working at a different temperature condition, you will get somewhere near 0.404 volt. Step number 4, determine the required PV module voltage. We need the module voltage to be around 33.5 volt. So determine the number of cells to be connected in series. It is very fine that this number of series connected cells is equal to PV module voltage divided by the voltage at the operating condition. We have just find here that my voltage at operating condition is 0.404 volt. So somewhere near 82.92 or about 83 cells I need here. So now let us calculate how much power these 83 cells can produce according to the previous equation. So according to the STC having VM is equal to 45 volt and let's take the same values of two current density. I get IM is equal to 4.446 for 12.5 into 12.5 centimeter square cell area and IM is equal to 6.42 for an area of 15 centimeter square. So now you can determine the maximum peak power for these two cells at voltage at 45 volt. So what people do actually, when they go for a modified algorithm with any controller they use for the programming of such case, they will use these conditions to operate these things in an algorithm and they will pick up their modified algorithm required to X, Y, and Z operating conditions. So thus, according to the requirement of large powers, such cells of larger areas are connected in series and parallel to form a PV module. Further, these PV modules can be connected in series and parallel to form the array that generate the power in megawatt. One small thing is that then I have some steps for EV charging. A bypass diode, why you get there? Why is the need of bypass diode? So all the cells connected in series in the PV module are identical. They all produce current when light falls on them. But if one of the solar cell gets shaded by some object, the light filling on it, then and it is interrupted and it produces lower current or almost no current due to this interruption of light falling on the cell. So these cell will now act as a resistance to the current flow in the series string of the cell. It will act as a load, and power generated by other cells will get dissipated in the shaded shell, causing the cell's temperature to rise and forming a hotspot. This may even lead to breaking of a module glass fires and accidents in the system. So the bypass diodes are used to avoid such catastrophics in our design system. As shown in figure, the bypass diode is connected in parallel to the solar cell with opposite polarity. So in normal no shading condition, the bypass diode is reverse bias, acting as an open circuit. But if shading occurs in the series connector string of the cell, the shaded shell will be reverse bias, and this will act as a forward bias to bypass diode, and it is connected with an opposite polarity to solar cell. Now the shaded bypass diode will carry the current through this rather than the shaded shell. Thus the diode bypasses the cell, avoids the damage caused by overheating. Hence the name bypass diode with significance its target. Ideally, there should be one diode per solar cell in a module, but practically to make module cost effective, one bypass diode is connected for a series combination of 10 to 15 cells. So when you are planning a cell-based system and you are designing something for your output, then you have to decide these things also, that what protective arrangement you are going to deal with the system. Same thing is with the blocking diode. In an off-grid system, the modules are used to supply the power to the load and charge the battery. During the night where there is no sunlight, the module produces no energy and the charged battery starts supplying power to the load and the PV module. The power supplies to the PV module is a loss of power. To avoid the loss, a diode is placed to block the current flow from the battery to the PV module. Thus, it is due to this diode that the loss of power is avoided by blocking the current flow from the battery to module. So this is also one of the picture. Now, say this is a generalized step I am taking for EV charging. Now I am entering into purely EV charging thing, and how with according to your topology your design will change for EV charging, that I will be telling. That आपने जो भी आपका AC to DC converter या DC to DC converter का जो topology लिया है, उसके हिसाब से how that design parameters will change from reverse from your vehicle parameters to the charging station parameters. Now we are seeing that, including some power electronics things and what is the application of power electronics in these cases that we will be discussing. Any questions till now? So, what is the significance of the session? That whatever the research you are doing in this area, whether it is SPV EV charging, that should come to the market with your design, with your algorithm, with your modified parameter calculation. And once you have gone through all these things, it will not only give a doctorate degree, but it will give you a tag that yes, you have implemented an EV level 1, level 2 charger or a charging station at your premises with certain norms, and dash numbers of cars are operating from that. So it will give you a prestige. If you've gone through a proper design with considering all variable parameters, and you are planning for a startup in future, that is what is basically startup from traditional entrepreneurship. It is a bit innovative ideas and which is converted into business without going into the technical terms of what is startup. So this will also be useful in that case also. I'll be just taking 1 or 2 minute hold, because then I have to move for the norms, specifications, EV charging, and going reverse from the EV data to the charging data of SPV, or what are the data now of solar PV modules and batteries will be differ from this. Any questions till now, friends?
No, sir.
I think so. It was Srinanda, sir. Sir, how was the session? Was it useful?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So why people stuck in research at that time when it comes to the practical implementation? Even you have to take care of so many small things regarding how your foundation will be, how you are taking care of your wind velocity. अभी बीच में जब ये क्वेश्चन आया था कि भाई गुजरात many places were affected by wind, now you might have heard in the newspaper that poles were out of the ground and there was a severe things gone in some villages. So when we design our solar PV system for charging station at X place, obviously these parameters also have to be considered. So when you consider the standard parameters at ST condition, then consider the deviation of point number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and while considering all these points, if you club all these things, then you will get the latest design parameters for your EV charging station. So it is a last station. I am taking it in very normal mood, so everybody will enjoy it, and later on obviously you will get this presentation also for your reference. I'll be just now going back to the presentation for the third stage of the presentation, that is basically EV charging station norms and how to redesign according to your charging topology. So I hope so my screen is visible, is it?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Now say these are a simple design equation, but this design equation for your EV charging station will change according to your topology and at which converter topology you have decided. I'll just sharing some report also to you. So how to club all these two things. One is solar PV EV charging, one is solar PV domestic charging, and third is solar PV EV and domestic charging both at a time occurring at the same place. So power consumption of an EV depends on the distance travel, battery capacity, and the mode of driving. Why didn't I got inside the battery parameters? Because already you have one session on battery. So an electric vehicle consumes power which can be calculated by the following equations. PD is equal to KD into EK by T, where KD is the number of kilometers driven. EK is the energy required per kilometer and T is the time required to charge the vehicle battery. T is the difference between the departure and arrival time of the EV at a charging station. So T depends on the SOC of the vehicle's battery. Power demand of an electrical vehicle can be represented by battery capacity, SOC, and its charging time. So if I want to now calculate my PD, then my PD is equal to Q battery, that is the capacity in ampere hour, into SOC max minus SOC. That deviation I already mentioned, it is a difference between a departure and arrival time. So my Q battery indicates the battery capacity, SOC max is the upper limit of the battery SOC, and T is the charging duration. Therefore, power demanded by nth electrical vehicle will be P is equal to N I from 1 to N summation of all those demand, and you will get the exact demand. Now you know that how your demand in watt and that whatever the charging time can be converted into a effective sizing of a solar PV station with variable parameters. Now the fantastic thing in this case is what I told, that if I have mentioned these three parameters, now somebody can say that I can modify the equation in terms of charging station design, where I am designing my charging number of vehicle charging at a station. From number of vehicle charging at a station, you can find the capacity of your transformer in kVA, and obviously you can put a margin of that capacity in kVA, and you can decide how many numbers of vehicles which are charging at your charging station, what is a maximum power factor you are addressing at that time, and you can remodify the design, and you can come back from the EV design side to the source design side of an AC parameters, where you get the AC parameters in terms of current, in terms of voltage, in terms of power, in terms of VM, in terms of IAC, and again you can go back to the traditional design with module. You can correct it and check it with the series design of all the series parameters. You can consider all the little variations that we mentioned in the PPT, and you can compare all this design data with already the running software, the standard software which are available in the market, and whatever the minor deviation you pick up, that has to be concluded in any type of research while before going for the actual practical implementation. So the PV array output is determined by the equation. It is PPV, that is an array output, it is equal to SI into eta into area, where SI is the average annual solar insolation in kWh per meter square. N is the PV module efficiency, and A is the surface area of the proposed power system. If the temperature of the PV cell increases, the output power drops. This is taken into consideration by the use of a temperature derating factor, eta T, for calculating the PV system efficiency. So that equation is given for eta T. where your PPV is also given, the modified PPV. So PPV is equal to SI into eta into area, and you will substitute the value and you will get the equation. So where W is the rated capacity of the PV panel in kilowatt in this last equation. Beta is the temperature coefficient. It is the unit is given. GC is the solar insulation in practical condition. Now smartly define your GC in this case, because I have told you the variation condition. The STC was defined for a 25 degree centigrade, but now you have some modified condition here. GS is the solar insulation at standard testing condition. It is already given in the data sheet. TC and TS are the temperature of the PV cell at current condition and standard condition. So I have taken this deviation here. I have mentioned this deviation here. But if you have a condition at your premises of a snow or something else, this design parameter will again change according to your design. Any doubts until this point? Still, there is a lot of things remaining. Friends, any doubt until this point? Fine. So I'll be just moving ahead. I hope so my slide is visible. So the later section I have designed for I have given for battery selection from my coordinators and my friends. I come to know that already the comparison of solar battery section is the battery selection is already done. So that's why I'm not taking it, but I'm explaining a little bit what was actually the problem with a traditional lead acid battery. So I was working as a maintenance engineer at RIL Surat, at Reliance Industries. So what we have a preventive maintenance of batteries. Now why this lead acid batteries didn't last actually due to two reasons. Number one, it has a maintenance. Second thing, when there is a spilling of a liquid, there is a H2SO4 and a DM water which is mixed in the cells of a typical lead acid batteries. In that case, due to the spilling of the liquid, you will find that the series connection of the internal battery will be cracked and it will be broken. So in industry, we have a solution which is known as a GraphCard for coating that we will apply on a silage cell. And at a time we are topping DM water when from a gravitymeter we measure the density. Then from that we can conclude that according to the density, the maximum charging voltage of the cell is 2.25 and the fully discharged cell voltage was 1.75 volt. From that the conclusion was done. But there was a certain maintenance issues. If what nickel cadmium we have to apply the petroleum jelly at a time, it has an issue of a memory effect and other. So lithium ion batteries now got very famous actually that. And lithium ion battery one additional advantage that they have good energy density and a power density. But but due to certain conditions, you have to have a battery management system for Li batteries, whatever the chemistry you prefer. So that is the reason, safety consideration, you have to prefer a BMS when you are going for a lithium ion battery. So all these things, VRLA batteries, say in my design at Surat, I have preferred VRLA batteries for certain conditions, because I have given a specific implementation from the DDO that at this much amount we have to take the maximum possible parameters and we have to go for implementation. Now, when PWM, when MPPT, and what I have done at that I will be telling. So your pulse width modulation stands for the method is used to regulate charge. Its function is to pull down the voltage of the solar array to near that of a battery to ensure that the battery is properly charged. In other words, they lock the solar panel voltage to the battery voltage by dragging the solar panel down to the battery system. It uses a MOSFET to connect and disconnect the solar panel with the battery. By switching the MOSFET at high frequency with various pulse width, the constant voltage can be maintained. The PWM control self-adjusts by varying the width and frequency of the pulses sent to the battery. So this PWM charge controller efficiency is very low actually. What is the point? It is explained here. For example, say you connect a 100 watt panel with a current of 5.75 ampere and your VMP is 17.14 volt directly to a 12 volt lead acid battery. The panel voltage will be dragged down near to the voltage of the battery, but the current will stay somewhere near 5.75 ampere. This happens because solar panel behaves like a current source. So the current is determined by the available sunlight, and now the power will be 12 volt into 5.75 ampere. So it will be somewhere near 66.6 watt. So the solar panel is now behaving like a 66 watt panel instead of a 100 watt panel. So These PWM controllers are most suited for a small solar system. It provides a low cost solution and it is normally used when the solar cell temperature it is somewhere in a specified range. If it is not there, then the correction you have to take at that time. MPPT charge controller, small DC-DC converter is there. Might be buck, might be boost, might be buck boost with a certain condition. So MPPT charge controller extract the maximum power from the PV module by forcing the PV module to operate at a voltage close to the maximum power point. It has been designed to adjust its input voltage to utilize the maximum power output of the solar relay and then transform this power to supply the varying voltage requirement. The input voltage is varied by DC-DC converter. So MPPT controllers do have an adaptive algorithm that follows the maximum power point of the solar panel array and then adjusts the incoming voltage to maintain the most efficient amount of power for the system. So the performance advantage of MPPT is substantially 10 to 40% when solar cell temperature is low, below 45%. They are more efficient than PWM controllers. The efficiency of typically MPPT controller is around 94 to 99%. These are some comparison of that when to go for a PWM and when to go for MPPT. Now, say I'll be showing one detailed sheet. So this, when I design a solar PV station, I have to mention all these standards. So if somebody is willing to work in this area, you should know what is basically IEC 61215, what is basically IS 4286. So when you have a controller, you have three options. Fine. In that three option, you can pick up a pure sine wave inverter out of the three available. So PV module must be tested and approved from any of the NABL. Now you are doing research and you are going for purchasing of PV modules because that you are not manufacturing. You are working in a power electronics domain or you are working in an in another domain. But we have to take care that how it is rated actually. So the PV modules must be tested and approved for any of the NABL, IC, MNRE accredited testing calibration laboratories. The supplier shall provide a performance guarantee for a PV module used in the power plant must be warranted for their output peak power capacity. We should not be less than 90% at the end of 10 years and 80% at the end of the 25 years. That we have to mention. We have to mention that what efficiency we expect to get from that. For the battery bank, as I told you, you have to tell that how much ampere hour and how series parallel combination cell you want. So we need 12 cells of 2 volts. I need a 24 volt system say here. 400 ampere cells will be connected in series parallel to form a 24 volt 400 ampere battery bank. If this is a 24 volt, obviously your panel, your sizing will be also for 24 volt, the panel sizing. When I prefer the cost competitiveness as according to my condition, then at that time I define VRLA tubular gel type batteries of the standards. So again I have to deal with standard. I have to see what is IEC 61427. I have to see what is IS 1651. I have to see what is IS 13369 standard and stationary at a C/10 rate for specifically this solar PV application. It will be stages in racks duly painted with SC resonant paint to cover less space. Power conditioning unit, I have to know this norms IEC 61683. I have to specify that I want MPPT charging. It should be not a. It should be an inverter with a pure sine wave. The tolerance I have to mention here. I have to mention the capacity of the PCU at the power factor. I have to mention the protection I mentioned in the slide. That what sort of protection actually it is required. So one more data I will be sharing, that how that data was prepared and how that tendering was done. So you can see here, when we go for specification, when I go for actual hardware design in 2018-19, I got the best innovation award from my university for this type of installation work at the Southern Gujarat region. So in that case, I mentioned everything that it was required for at that time. So the standards, the efficiency, the guarantee, the controller, what type of controller I need, what is the THD expectation that I have to mention, because I cannot mention a same controller with comparing with a 10% THD and with a 3% THD. And obviously I have to mention the efficiency at the full load also, that what efficiency I am expecting at the full load. Protection I have to mention over voltage, under voltage, overload. Now one thing I did them, that these are only a sample 5, but I gave them a list that these indications should be there when I receive my panel at that time, and this type of display parameters should be there. It should be easily readable for me at that time. For junction box, I have given them a design The junction box shall be dust and waterproof and made of thermoplastic. The terminals will be connected to copper lugs or bus bar of proper sizes. The junction box will have suitable cable entry point fitted with the cables. Suitable marking shall be provided on the lugs of bus bar for easy identification of cable. Fabrics will be fitted at the cable terminal point of identification. Each junction box should be fitted with proper rating reverse locking diode. The junction box should be of a repeated make. Now, for installation, see I have written here. The PV module shall be mounted on a fixed metallic structure having adequate strength and appropriate design which can be withstand the load of modules and high wind velocity. In some cases, even I have to mention the wind velocity. If it is a case of your area where you have some warnings of the heavy windy positions, then I have to mention it at greater than 150 meter per second and all those things I have to mention here. With what type of treatment or what type of coating is used for panel manufacturing, that obviously you have to specify it for this thing. The cable size, the cable sizes I have to show. When I did draw the layout of this plant, then I come to know that module interconnection, module parallel interconnection, battery to PCU, PCU to load, which type of cable I'm using there. Whether it is a multi-strand cable, then I have to mention here it is a multi-strand cable. So I have a cable table where there, and I have some design calculation. With both the methods, I compare that exactly what cables will be there, and well, it was done for specification. Then when I gave them a table that whatever the parts are there at my SPV system, you have to follow these norms. In PCU, you have to follow IEC 61683. If MPPT charge controller, you have to go for IEC 62093, IEC 600682. Fine, for design qualification and testing. So this can be looked at, and you should have a report like this, that what things are there. For storage battery, IES 1651, IES 13369. For switches, circuit breaker connections, I have to use IES 60947. Fine, part 1, 2 and 3, EN 50521. Then I should know what is IP, ingress protection. I have to take, because my panel is in an open place, so I have to consider for outdoor application the ingress protection. So we should tell them that I need a things of junction box or enclosure with IP21 or IP65 quality. And when the panel was there, what I should get here actually on front. So I write here that the other relevant information on traceability of solar cells and modules should be as per ISO 9000 series. I asked them to give the IV curve of the module. I asked them to give some different things of the module. I asked them to provide all these parameters of which I have mentioned. I asked them to provide the NABL accreditation certificates when they provide me the material for combining all those things and for developing the station. So this is all about the charging station. Now, when suppose I told you that you have your charging station, and in your charging station there is a case that you have a front end AC-DC converter, you have back end DC-DC converter, and you have a battery charging load. So while you go for a solar PV application, go from the backward side. From the DC-DC converter, derive your equation. From that, get up to the point of a DC bus. From the DC bus, get reverse up to the AC bus parameters. From AC bus parameters, get on the deviation, what is in voltage and current. From the voltage and current, get all the deviations of temperature and all the other aspects. With all the temperature and other aspects, once you derive for your topology and what you are working, and then get back to the solar panel, first go for the modular design, then it can be verified with the cell-based design. Once after you get all these things, and the panel location, the southern facing, the tilted angle, and the software, PVSys or any other software, then rechange your design data according to the condition, and then you will be nearer to ready for your hardware implementation of level 1 or level 2 or level 3 charging station. Now, once you say that you are going for a level 1 or level 2 charging station, so it is not directly connection just like your home charging. In case of level 1 and level 2, you have to use an EVSE, that is known as electrical vehicle supply equipment with J1772 connector. So that connector you have to demand, that connector that you have to take as per the standards. Whether it is not available with Indian market, then bring from outside. That connector you have to define. Now, once you go for some other charging method, say you are going for a CCS or you are going for a GBT. So in that case also in GBT, if you are going for a burst standard, now the next research point comes to which thing you are going for. You are going for a CAN protocol, then you are going for a PLC. Now, generally PLC is used in CCS charging system, fine, and and different aspect, whether you are going for a PLC, whether you are going for control area network for a GBT charging. We are Indian network, we are generally going for a GBT charging. भारत चार्जर की जो स्पेसिफिकेशन है वो GBT की ओर से जा रहा है. So that you can go. So level 1, level 2, G11772 connector. Level 3 DC charging, the things will be different. Now how things will be different depends on your, in the country we are following we are following suppose a Bharat standard, then Bharat standards are suppose based on the GBT, then we have to follow the GBT standards, GBT protocol. Now how many research points are there, or how many research areas are there to work for the respected faculties and the students? So one of the area which is going on for working in India in this domain, it is when your solar panel is working with a number of resources, say with wind energy, with biomass energy, with traditional grid. At that time, how to go for an optimized operation, means that at what particular time which load will be on. Your solar power should supply for what amount of time, what will be the emission level, what will be the sensitivity, what will be the cost analysis, what will be the long-term cost analysis, how can you reduce the long-term cost analysis, how can you give an exact solution. If you use a software like Homer, in that case, in that inbuilt some algorithms are given with optimization condition, but obviously that optimization condition of Homer that you can use with your optimization algorithm by using your variable conditions as explained in the session, and then after you can suggest your result, that this is your result for basically solar PV charging. So this was one of the area. Some people are working on a power electronics part to improve the efficiency. In one of the slide, I mentioned that 5 or 6 areas where the people are working on a material physics. So the 4 or 5 things are in a tested condition only. They are not actually come in the market. They are at present still in the laboratory condition. So people with those are with the physics domain or interested in material physics, they can work in that domain. The 5th area, when the solar PV integration with EV and with combination of EV with domestic load, both parallel is given at a time, then what will be the adverse impact on the grid in terms of power factor deviation, in terms of current harmonics, in terms of EMI issues, in terms of other issues, and all those issues can mitigate by some advanced technology incorporated with this variable conditions which were already mentioned in the session. And this how in solar PV generation you can work at the test for your side, and in future you can definitely contribute to the government, Indian government, and you can come with the best solution as a citizen of India. And you can produce some great results while implementing these things at your premises or at your site. As the target of the government is 100 gigawatt, I shown the data of the 3rd month of 21. We are still lagging at what we planned actually. And why I told you that solar PV charging government is preferring, there is very big reason, because you compare the LT tariff of the conventional energy and by the solar energy, you will have some difference after 2019. This scenario got changed after 2018-19, and now people are working in this domain, and there are some brilliant practical aspect and some technical aspect to be work on this. Thank you very much for listening very patiently to all my dear and respected colleagues. Some of the persons I am looking are the faculty members from the reputed institutes, and it is very great and honor that you are a part of SCTP of GEC Valsad. At some point of time, I am expecting you all of them to visit at Government Agency Valsad and be our family member, be at our home. We'll be very happy to receive you once this Corona pandemic is over. This STTP is for an hard work of one of the 2 coordinators and the department faculties coordinations at the Bogban, and the help of my respected principal sir and all HODs at that time. So the aim of the SCTP and aim of specifically today's session was that you go for some practical implementation, or you have some very good proof of concept type or prototype, or in future you go for a startup application. There are certain, if somebody wants that where should I get from my money for a startup, how to go for a pitch deck session, how to prepare a presentation for a pitch deck session. So I am part of an SSIP coordinator of the institute, so I will provide those details also. If somebody is willing to work in this area as a future startup with renewable energy. So the business model plan, the pitch deck plan, and all those things we can also provide. That we provide as a part of the FDP, and I'll be very happy that some of the nice researchers and my dear friends present in the group, and my other friends are present in the group, will come with some brilliant solution in this domain with the renewable energy, which will contribute to the society and the nation. Thank you very much. I'm concluding here. Any questions? Over to my coordinators, Harshal sir and Devendra sir. My mail ID is klmukherjee@gcv.ac.in, that you will get from Harshal sir. Even if you want some help from that part also, you can give it. What is my expectation from the STV? That when this presentation copy will be provided to you, try to design for your topology the parameters of your charging station with EV, with domestic load, and with combination of EV and domestic load both. That you will be able to design, including the cable size and all those duct size and the foundation design and all those things.
Hello. Yes, sir. I do have one or two questions. Will be happy to know.
Yes, sir.
Do you, as you said that if you are using PWM converter or module, the level of the PV panel goes down from 100 to 66 volt.
66
So-
watts, sir. 66
66 watt, yes.
Yes.
Do you found what is the reason behind that? That is my first question. And
Great.
the second one is the solar panel is likely to be connected with converters and chargers and some circuitry. Do you came across any EMI interference problems or electrical parasitic problems?
I'll tell you the first answer, and then I'll be going for the second answer. So as I told in my presentation, that in PWM technique you are dragging the voltage up to your battery voltage. So when you multiply that at a reduced voltage, you will obviously have some loss of 34 watt that I mentioned in the slide. That was the main reason or drawback of the PWM controller. So it was very restricted to a lower capacity load, sir. So wherever I have seen the specifications floating for any conditions, people are inevitably going for MPPT control. Fine, in practical terms. Now, for second conditions, the EMI issue. So, for the EMI filter at the source side, one of the patent I have filed, it is based on electrical vehicle charger design, where I consider the EMI effect, where I consider the power factor improvement, which was up to somewhere near 0.99, where I found that when I charge the battery in a constant current mode, at that time I was having some issues of EMI. It was having an issues of power factor drop, and it was having some issues of a current harmonics. So all three, including soft starting, ramp compensation, all those parameters was mitigated in my charger, but it was charged from a domestic load. Now, if you you have given supply from your power electronic device, but your topology is based on power electronics, that the chopping of your to give the required duty cycle, that obviously you will find some issues from there also, sir. But that has to again re-verified with your EV design to the PV design, with PV design. With my domestic charger design, yes, I have some EMI issues, sir, and I have designed that EMI filter in that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So that design was based on basically I designed a common topology for charger and charging station. In that I was taking an effect of a group PFC. So there are also 3 or 4 methods, or number of methods are there when we can reduce our algorithm in that case. Any questions? I'll be very happy to answer if any questions still. Yes, sir. I want some feedback right now. How was the STTP friends sessions and how was today's session? Was it useful? The presentation copy will be definitely given, and from that, whatever the topology at point you are working, you can club it with the SPP design.